My name is Geneva Martinez, and I'm 67 years old. Last Tuesday evening, my son Porter picked up a glass bottle from my kitchen counter, held it over his head, and told me that if I didn't give him money, he was going to hurt me with it. "Mom, I need $2,000, Porter said, his voice shaking with rage. "I need it right now, and if you don't give it to me, I swear I'm going to make you regret it." I looked at my 43-year-old son, the baby I'd given birth to, the child I'd raised alone after his father died, the young man I'd put through college, and I saw a stranger. A dangerous stranger holding a bottle like a weapon. "Porter, put the bottle down," I said, trying to keep my voice calm even though my heart was pounding. "Let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," Porter shouted. He raised the bottle higher and I could see his hand trembling. "I need money. You have money. You're going to give it to me or I'm going to." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The threat was clear. That's when I made a decision that would change everything between us forever. "Porter," I said quietly, "if you threaten me with that bottle one more time, I'm going to threaten you with something much worse." "What?" Porter laughed bitterly. "What could you possibly threaten me with?" "The truth," I said. "I'm going to tell everyone the truth about you, the truth about what you've been doing, the truth about where your money goes, the truth about who you really are." Porter's face went pale. The bottle in his hand stopped shaking. For the first time in months, my son looked scared. "You wouldn't dare," he whispered. "Try me," I said. "Threaten me with that bottle and I'll threaten you with the truth, and we'll see which weapon does more damage." That night, the night my son threatened me with a bottle, I threatened him with the truth. And by the next morning, his entire life had come crashing down. But to understand why I did what I did, and why it destroyed my son so completely, you need to understand the whole story. You need to know about the years of lies and manipulation that led to that moment. You need to know about the secret I'd been keeping to protect Porter, the secret I finally decided to expose. And you need to know about what happened after I told the truth. When Porter learned that sometimes, the truth can be the most powerful weapon of all. 3 years ago, Porter was doing well, or at least that's what he told me. Porter had graduated from business school 15 years earlier and had built what he described as a successful career as a financial consultant. He had a nice apartment, drove a decent car, and always seemed to have money. He wasn't married and didn't have children, which he said was because he was focused on his career. I'd hoped he'd settle down eventually, but I respected his choices. I lived alone in the house where I'd raised Porter after his father died when Porter was 5. My husband Raymond had been killed in a workplace accident, leaving me with a young son and very little money. I'd worked 2 jobs for years to keep us afloat and put Porter through school. Now, at 64, I was retired from my job as a secretary at an insurance company. I lived on Social Security and a small pension. I didn't have much money, but I was comfortable. 3 years ago, Porter started visiting me more often. At first, I was happy about it. I thought my son finally wanted to spend more time with his aging mother. But then the requests started. "Mom, can I borrow $500? Porter asked one Sunday afternoon. "I have a big client meeting next week, and I need to buy a new suit. I'll pay you back as soon as I close the deal." I gave him the money. I was proud that my son was doing well enough to have big client meetings. 2 weeks later, "Mom, can I borrow $800? My car needs repairs, and I don't get paid until next month." I gave him the money. A month after that, "Mom, I need $1,000. My landlord raised my rent and I'm short this month. I'll pay you back with my next check." I gave him the money. Over the course of a year, Porter borrowed $12,000 from me. He never paid back a single penny. When I asked about repayment, Porter would get defensive. "Mom, I'm going through a rough patch right now. Business is slow, but things are picking up. I'll pay you back soon, I promise." I believed him because he was my son, and I wanted to believe that he was telling the truth. 2 years ago, I ran into a woman named Minnie Parker at the grocery store. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her until she spoke. Mrs. Martinez, Geneva Martinez, she asked. Yes, I said. I'm sorry, do I know you? I'm Minnie Parker, she said. I used to work with your son Porter at Henderson Financial Consulting. We were colleagues for about 5 years before I left the company. Oh, of course, I said. How are you? How is Porter doing at the company? He doesn't talk much about his work. Minnie looked confused. Porter doesn't work at Henderson Financial anymore. He was fired about 18 months ago. I felt like I'd been punched. What? That's not possible. Porter told me he's still working there. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, Minnie said gently. But Porter was let go. There were some issues with client accounts. The company didn't press charges, but they did terminate him. I'm surprised he didn't tell you. After Minnie left, I stood in the grocery store aisle trying to process what I just learned. Porter had been fired 18 months ago, but he'd been telling me he was still working as a financial consultant. He'd been borrowing money from me for business expenses and temporary cash flow problems. He'd been lying to me for a year and a half. When Porter came to visit that weekend, I confronted him. Porter, I ran into Minnie Parker at the grocery store, I said. She told me you were fired from Henderson Financial 18 months ago. Is that true? Porter's face went red. Minnie doesn't know what she's talking about. There was a misunderstanding about my employment status, but I'm still consulting for them on a contract basis. Porter, don't lie to me, I said firmly. Were you fired? Fine, Porter exploded. Yes, I was fired. Are you happy? They let me go because of some bullshit accusations about how I was handling client accounts. It wasn't my fault, but they needed a scapegoat. So yes, I lost my job. I've been trying to find new work, but it's been hard. That's why I've needed to borrow money from you. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Why did you lie about still working there? Because I was embarrassed, Porter shouted. Because I didn't want you to know I'd failed. Because I didn't want you to be disappointed in me. Porter, I wouldn't have been disappointed, I said. Losing a job happens, but lying to me about it, borrowing money under false pretenses, that's different. I needed the money to survive, Porter said. What was I supposed to do? I have rent to pay, bills to cover. I've been applying for jobs, but nothing's come through yet. I needed help, and you're my mother. You're supposed to help me. I softened a bit. I understand you needed help. But Porter, you need to be honest with me. No more lies. If you need help, ask for it honestly. Okay. Okay, Porter agreed. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I forgave him because he was my son, and I believed him when he said he'd been looking for work. But Porter was still lying. 1 year ago, Porter's requests for money became more frequent and more urgent. Mom, I need $1,500. I have a job interview next week, and I need to fly to another state. This could be the job that changes everything. Mom, I need $2,000. My landlord is threatening to evict me if I don't pay rent by Friday. Mom, I need $800. My car broke down, and I can't get to job interviews without it. Over the course of that year, Porter borrowed another $18,000 from me. Combined with the previous year, he owed me $30,000. $30,000 was nearly everything I had in savings. I was living on a fixed income, and I'd given my son almost all of my emergency fund. When I told Porter I couldn't lend him any more money because I needed to keep something for my own emergencies, he got angry. Mom, I'm your son, Porter said. I'm in trouble, I need help. How can you say no to me? Porter, I've given you $30,000, I said. I don't have any more to give. I need that money for myself, for medical expenses, for home repairs, for emergencies. You're being selfish, Porter accused. You have a pension and Social Security. You're fine, but I'm drowning here. I lost my job, I can't find work, and my own mother won't help me. What kind of mother are you? His words hurt, but I stood firm. Porter, I love you, but I can't give you any more money. You need to figure this out on your own. Porter didn't speak to me for 2 months after that conversation. When he finally did contact me again, he acted like nothing had happened. But things were about to get much worse. 6 months ago, I discovered the real reason Porter needed so much money. My neighbor Curtis knocked on my door one afternoon, looking uncomfortable. "Geneva, I need to talk to you about something," Curtis said. "It's about Porter." "What about him?" I asked. "I saw him last week," Curtis said. "He was in a bad part of town, near the area where there's a lot of drug activity. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but, Geneva, I think Porter might have a problem." "What kind of problem?" I asked, even though I was starting to suspect the answer. "I think he might be using drugs," Curtis said quietly. "I'm sorry to tell you this, but I thought you should know." I didn't want to believe it, but it explained so much. The constant need for money, the lies about where the money was going, the defensiveness when I asked questions. I confronted Porter the next time he visited. "Porter, are you using drugs?" I asked directly. "What? No," Porter said. "Why would you ask me that?" "Because Curtis saw you in a neighborhood known for drug activity," I said. "Because you've borrowed $30,000 from me in 2 years and have nothing to show for it. Because you're lying to me constantly. Porter, if you have a drug problem, I want to help you get treatment. But you need to be honest with me." "I don't have a drug problem," Porter insisted. "Curtis doesn't know what he's talking about. I was in that neighborhood visiting a friend, that's all." "Porter, please." "I said I don't have a drug problem," Porter shouted. "Stop accusing me of things. You're my mother. You're supposed to trust me." He stormed out of my house. Over the next few months, I did some investigating. I called Porter's old employer and managed to speak with his former supervisor. What I learned was devastating. Porter hadn't been fired because of a misunderstanding. He'd been fired because he'd been caught stealing from client accounts to support a drug habit. The company hadn't pressed charges because they didn't want the scandal, but they'd terminated him immediately. Porter had been addicted to prescription painkillers for at least 3 years. The addiction had cost him his job, his savings, and his integrity. And all the money I'd been giving him, money I'd thought was for rent and car repairs and job interviews, had been going to feed his addiction. I felt sick and betrayed and heartbroken. But I didn't confront Porter with what I'd learned. Instead, I made a decision. I would never give him another penny. And if he tried to manipulate me again, I would tell him the truth, that I knew about his addiction, that I knew about him being fired for theft, that I knew all of his lies. I was keeping this secret to protect him, but I was prepared to use it as a weapon if I needed to. 3 months ago, Porter's behavior became more aggressive. He started showing up at my house uninvited, demanding money. When I refused, he'd get angry, shouting, slamming doors, punching walls. "Mom, I need money," Porter would yell. "Why are you being so difficult? You're my mother, you're supposed to help me." "Porter, I've helped you enough," I'd say firmly. "I'm not giving you any more money. You need to get help for your addiction." "I don't have an addiction," Porter would scream. "You're making things up. You're trying to make me look bad." One day, Porter showed up at my house at 10 p.m., pounding on the door so hard I thought he'd break it. "Mom, open the door, I know you're in there," Porter shouted. I opened the door. Porter looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands were shaking, and he was sweating even though it was a cool evening. "I need $2,000, Porter said. "Right now." "No," I said. "Porter, you need help. You need to go to rehab. But I'm not giving you money to feed your addiction." "If you don't give me money, I'm going to." Porter stopped himself, but the threat was clear. "You're going to what?" I asked. "Are you threatening me, Porter?" "Just give me the money," Porter said through gritted teeth. "Please, Mom, I'm begging you." "No," I said. "And if you threaten me, I'm calling the police." Porter left that night, but I knew he'd be back, and next time, things might escalate even further. I was scared of my own son. Last Tuesday evening, Porter came to my house again. I'd just finished dinner when I heard his car pull into my driveway. I thought about not answering the door, but this was my son. Despite everything, I still loved him. I still hoped there was a way to reach him. I opened the door. Porter walked in without being invited. "Mom, I need to talk to you," Porter said. His voice was calmer than usual, which made me nervous. Sometimes the calm moments were more dangerous than the explosive ones. "What do you want, Porter?" I asked. "I need money," he said. "I know you've said no before, but this time it's different. This time it's urgent." "Porter, I've told you." "I owe money to people," Porter interrupted, his calm facade cracking. "Bad people. People who are going to hurt me if I don't pay them back. Mom, I need $2,000 by tonight or I'm in serious trouble." "Porter, if you owe money to dangerous people, you need to go to the police," I said. "I can't help you with this." "The police can't help me," Porter said desperately. "These aren't people you go to the police about. Mom, please, I'm your son. You can't just let me get hurt." "I'm not going to give you money to pay off drug dealers," I said firmly. "Porter, this has to stop. You need to go to rehab. You need to get clean. I'll help you with that. But I'm not giving you money." That's when Porter snapped. He walked into my kitchen, grabbed a glass bottle that was sitting on the counter. It had contained olive oil, now empty, and held it over his head like a weapon. "Mom, I need $2,000, Porter said, his voice shaking with rage. "I need it right now, and if you don't give it to me, I swear I'm going to make you regret it." I looked at my son, my baby, my child, and I saw a stranger. A dangerous stranger holding a bottle like he was actually considering hitting me with it. My heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to give him the money just to make him leave, but I knew that if I did, this would never end. He'd keep coming back, keep threatening me, keep taking from me until there was nothing left. So instead, I made a decision I'd been preparing for ever since I'd learned the truth about Porter's addiction and his lies. "Porter," I said quietly, "if you threaten me with that bottle one more time, I'm going to threaten you with something much worse." "What?" Porter laughed bitterly. "What could you possibly threaten me with?" "The truth," I said. "I'm going to tell everyone the truth about you. I'm going to tell your former employer that I know why you were really fired. I'm going to tell everyone in our family about your addiction. I'm going to tell the police about the people you say are threatening you. I'm going to tell everyone that for the past 3 years, you've been lying, stealing, and manipulating me. And I'm going to make sure that everyone knows exactly who you are and what you've done." Porter's face went pale. The bottle in his hand stopped shaking. "You wouldn't dare," he whispered. "You've been protecting me, keeping my secrets. You wouldn't expose me." "I've been protecting you because I'm your mother," I said. "But if you threaten me with that bottle, I'm done protecting you. I'll expose every lie, every theft, every manipulation. And your life, what's left of it, will be destroyed." Porter stared at me for a long moment. I could see him weighing his options. Would he actually hit me with that bottle, or would he back down? Finally, Porter lowered the bottle. He set it on the counter, and then he said something I'll never forget. "You're a terrible mother," he said coldly. "A good mother would help her son, but you're just a selfish old woman who cares more about money than about her own child." "And you're a drug addict who just threatened to hurt his own mother," I replied. "So I guess neither of us is winning any awards today." Porter left. He didn't slam the door. He just walked out quietly, which somehow felt more ominous. I locked the door behind him and sat down at my kitchen table, shaking. I just threatened to expose my son's darkest secrets, and I meant it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Porter standing in my kitchen with that bottle raised, looking at me with such hatred. And I thought about what I needed to do next. Because threatening Porter with the truth wasn't enough. If I wanted him to actually get help, if I wanted to protect myself and maybe even save my son's life, I needed to follow through on my threat. I needed to actually tell the truth, all of it, to everyone who needed to hear it. And that's exactly what I was going to do. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Should Geneva expose her son? Is she being a bad mother or protecting herself? Where are you watching from? The morning after Porter threatened me with the bottle, I woke up with a clear head and a firm resolve. I'd spent years protecting my son's secrets, covering for his lies, making excuses for his behavior. But the moment he raised that bottle over his head, something in me changed. I was done protecting him. It was time to tell the truth. I started by making a list of everyone who needed to know what Porter had been doing. My family, Porter's former employer, the police, anyone who might be in a position to either help Porter get the treatment he needed or protect themselves from his manipulation. At the top of my list was my sister Opal. She lived 3 hours away and had always been close to Porter. In fact, Porter had borrowed money from her too over the past few years. I didn't know how much, but I suspected it was substantial. I called Opal at 8 a.m. "Geneva, is everything okay?" Opal answered. "You never call this early." "I need to tell you something about Porter," I said, "and it's not going to be easy to hear." Over the next 30 minutes, I told Opal everything. About Porter being fired 3 years ago for stealing from clients, about his drug addiction, about the $30,000 he'd borrowed from me and never paid back, about him showing up at my house and threatening me with a bottle. There was a long silence when I finished. Then Opal spoke. "Geneva, I wish you'd told me this sooner," Opal said quietly. "I was trying to protect him," I explained. "I thought if I kept his secrets, he'd eventually get his life together, but he's only gotten worse." "I know," Opal said. "Geneva, Porter borrowed $15,000 from me over the past 2 years. He told me it was for business investments. I believed him because he's family, and I wanted to believe he was doing well." "He told me the same lies," I said. "Opal, I'm sorry, I should have warned you." "It's not your fault," Opal said. "But Geneva, we need to do something. This can't continue. Porter needs help and we can't enable him anymore." "That's why I'm calling," I said. "I'm done keeping his secrets. I'm going to tell everyone what's been happening, and I'm hoping you'll support me when I do." "Of course I will," Opal said. "What do you need me to do?" "I'm planning a family meeting," I explained. "This Sunday. I want everyone to be there, you, our brother Curtis, our cousins. Everyone Porter has borrowed money from or lied to. I'm going to tell them the truth about Porter's addiction and his behavior. And I'm going to ask them to stop giving him money, no matter what sob story he tells them." "I'll be there," Opal promised. "And Geneva, I'm proud of you for finally standing up to him." "I know this must be incredibly hard." "It is," I admitted, "but it's necessary." Sunday afternoon, 15 members of my family gathered in my living room. My sister Opal and her husband, my brother Curtis and his wife, my cousins Minnie, Raymond, and Theodore and their spouses, and several other relatives who'd been close to Porter over the years. Porter wasn't invited. This meeting was about him, not for him. Everyone looked confused when they arrived. I'd been deliberately vague about why I was calling the meeting, saying only that it was important and concerned Porter. Once everyone was seated, I stood up in front of them. "Thank you all for coming," I began. "I know you're wondering why I asked you here. The reason is simple. I need to tell you the truth about Porter. The truth I've been hiding for years to protect him. But I can't protect him anymore, not when it means putting myself and all of you at risk." I saw several family members exchange worried glances. "For the past 3 years, Porter has been lying to all of us," I continued. "He was fired from his job 3 years ago for stealing from client accounts to support a drug addiction. Since then, he's been borrowing money from family members under false pretenses, telling us he needs it for business expenses, rent, car repairs. But the truth is, he's been using that money to buy drugs." "Geneva, are you sure about this?" my brother Curtis asked. "That's a serious accusation." "I'm certain," I said. "I've spoken to Porter's former employer. I've done my own investigation. And Porter himself admitted to me that he lost his job, though he lied about why. But I have documentation from his employer confirming that he was fired for theft related to drug use." I pulled out copies of documents I'd obtained from Porter's former supervisor. After explaining the situation, the supervisor had been willing to provide me with written confirmation of why Porter was terminated. I passed the documents around the room. "Over the past 3 years, Porter has borrowed $30,000 from me," I said. "He's borrowed $15,000 from Opal. How many of you have also lent Porter money?" Slowly, hands started going up around the room. My cousin Minnie, my cousin Raymond, Curtis, Theodore. Nearly everyone in the room had given Porter money at some point. "How much?" I asked. People started calling out numbers. $5,000, $8,000, $3,000, $10,000. When we added it all up, the total was staggering. Porter had borrowed over $85,000 from our family over the past 3 years, and he hadn't paid back a single penny to anyone. $85,000, I repeated, letting the number sink in. That's how much Porter has stolen from this family. Because make no mistake, when you borrow money with no intention of paying it back, and when you're lying about why you need it, that's theft. "Geneva, I understand you're upset," Curtis said. "But Porter is family. Maybe he's struggling, but that doesn't mean we should abandon him. We should help him get treatment." "I agree we should help him get treatment," I said. "But we can't help someone who won't admit they have a problem. I've tried to get Porter to go to rehab. He refuses. He insists he doesn't have a drug problem. And as long as we keep giving him money, he has no reason to change." "So what are you proposing?" Opal asked. "I'm proposing that we all agree, right now, today, that we will not give Porter any more money," I said. "No matter what story he tells us, no matter how desperate he claims to be, we cut him off financially until he agrees to go to rehab." "That's harsh," Theodore observed. "Geneva, he's your son. How can you just cut him off?" "Because I love him," I said, my voice breaking. "Because the only way Porter is going to hit bottom and realize he needs help is if we stop enabling him. And because 3 days ago, Porter came to my house, demanded money, and when I refused, he threatened me with a bottle. He raised it over his head like he was going to hit me with it." The room went completely silent. Several people gasped. "Porter threatened you?" Curtis asked, his face pale. "His own mother?" "Yes," I said. "That's when I knew I couldn't protect him anymore. That's when I knew I had to tell all of you the truth. Because if Porter is willing to threaten me, he might be willing to threaten any of you. And I couldn't live with myself if someone got hurt because I kept his secrets." "Did you call the police?" Minnie asked. "No," I admitted. "Because he's my son. And I'm still hoping there's a way to help him without getting the authorities involved. But that only works if we're all on the same page. We have to stop giving him money. We have to stop making excuses for him. And we have to tell him that the only help we're willing to offer is help getting into treatment." Around the room, people were nodding. Some were crying. Everyone looked shocked and sad. "I'm in," Opal said. "I won't give Porter any more money." "Me too," Curtis agreed. "Geneva, I'm sorry. I had no idea things had gotten this bad." One by one, everyone in the room agreed. We would present a united front. No more money for Porter unless he agreed to go to rehab. "There's one more thing," I said. "I think we need to tell Porter that we all know the truth, that there are no more secrets. I'm planning to call him tonight and let him know that I've told the family everything. I want him to understand that he can't manipulate us anymore." "Do you think that's safe?" Raymond asked. "If he threatened you with a bottle, who knows what he might do when he finds out you've exposed him?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I have to try. And I'm going to tell him that if he threatens me again, or if he shows up at my house uninvited, I will call the police. No more warnings." After the meeting, several family members stayed to talk to me privately. They shared their own stories of Porter's manipulation, lies he'd told them, money he'd borrowed, promises he'd broken. My cousin Minnie told me that Porter had borrowed $8,000 from her last year, claiming he needed it for a down payment on a car. She'd never seen the car. Curtis told me that Porter had asked him for money just 2 weeks ago, saying he needed it to pay for his mother's medical expenses. Curtis had been about to give it to him when he decided to call me first to check if I was okay. When I told him I was fine and had no medical expenses, Curtis realized Porter had been lying. Everyone had a story. Everyone had been manipulated. And everyone felt guilty for not seeing it sooner. "Don't blame yourselves," I told them. "Porter is very good at lying. He's had years of practice. And we all wanted to believe him because we love him. But now we know the truth. and now we can stop enabling him. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my phone in my hand, trying to gather the courage to call Porter. Part of me was terrified. When Porter found out that I'd exposed him to the entire family, he was going to be furious, and I didn't know what he might do in his anger. But I'd made a commitment to stop protecting him, and that meant following through, even when it was scary. I dialed Porter's number. He answered on the third ring. "What do you want?" Porter asked coldly. We hadn't spoken since the night he'd threatened me with the bottle. "Porter, I need to tell you something," I said. "Today, I had a family meeting. Opal, Curtis, Minnie, Raymond, Theodore, everyone was there, and I told them the truth about you." There was a long silence. "What truth?" Porter finally asked, his voice dangerous. "The truth about your drug addiction," I said. "The truth about you being fired for stealing from clients. The truth about the $85,000 you've borrowed from our family and never paid back. The truth about you threatening me with a bottle. I told them everything, Porter. There are no more secrets." "You did what?" Porter exploded. "Mom, how could you? How could you tell them those things? You've destroyed my reputation. You've turned the whole family against me." "I didn't destroy your reputation," I said calmly. "You destroyed it yourself with your lies and your addiction. I just stopped covering for you." "This is betrayal," Porter shouted. "I'm your son. You're supposed to protect me. You're supposed to be on my side." "I am on your side," I said. "That's why I'm doing this. Porter, our entire family has agreed. We're not giving you any more money unless you agree to go to rehab. We want to help you, but only if you're willing to help yourself." "I don't need rehab," Porter insisted. "I don't have a drug problem. You're making all of this up." "Porter, I have documentation from your former employer," I said. "I have testimony from people who have seen you buying drugs. I have 3 years of evidence of your addiction. You can deny it all you want, but the truth is out now. Everyone knows." "Then I'll just get money from somewhere else," Porter said. "I don't need you people anyway." "That's your choice," I said. "But Porter, I need to tell you something else. If you come to my house uninvited again, or if you threaten me in any way, I'm calling the police. I'm done being scared of you, and I'm done letting you manipulate me." "You're going to regret this," Porter said. "You think you can just expose me and there won't be consequences. You've ruined my life." "No, Porter," I said sadly. "You ruined your own life. I just stopped helping you hide it." Porter hung up on me. I sat at my kitchen table, shaking. I'd done it. I'd exposed Porter's secrets. I'd told the family the truth. And I'd drawn a line in the sand. No more enabling, no more protecting him from consequences. But I also knew this wasn't over. Porter was angry and desperate and addicted. And desperate, addicted people do desperate things. The next morning, I woke up to find 15 voicemails on my phone, all from Porter. I was afraid to listen to them, but I forced myself to do it. The first few messages were angry rants, Porter yelling at me, calling me names, telling me I was a terrible mother. But the later messages were different. They were sad and manipulative. "Mom, I'm sorry," Porter said in one message, his voice tearful. "I'm sorry for everything, you're right. I do have a problem, and I need help. Please, can we talk? I want to make things right." I knew this was another manipulation. Porter had tried this before, getting angry, then switching to sad and apologetic when the anger didn't work. But part of me, the mother part, wanted to believe him, wanted to hope that maybe, finally, he was ready to get help. I called him back. "Porter, I got your messages," I said. "Are you serious about wanting help?" "Yes," Porter said, still sounding tearful. "Mom, you were right, I do have a drug problem, and I'm ready to go to rehab, but I need your help." "What kind of help?" I asked cautiously. "I found a rehab facility that has a bed available next week," Porter said. "But I need money to pay the deposit. It's $5,000. If you can lend me that, I'll go to rehab and get clean. I promise." And there it was, another request for money, another manipulation. "Porter, if you're serious about rehab, I'll help you get in," I said. "But I'm not giving you $5,000 in cash. I'll call the facility directly and pay the deposit myself. What's the name of the place? Porter hesitated. It's called Serenity Hills Recovery Center. Okay, I said. Give me the phone number. I'll call them right now and arrange payment. Actually, you can't call them today, Porter said quickly. They're closed on Mondays. You'd have to wait until tomorrow. Porter, most rehab facilities operate 7 days a week, I said. They don't close on Mondays. This one does, Porter insisted. Look, can you just give me the money? I promise I'll use it for rehab. No, I said. Porter, if you're genuinely ready for treatment, I will help you. But I'm not giving you cash. If you tell me the real name of the facility, I'll pay them directly. Otherwise, I can help you find a reputable rehab center and arrange admission. Forget it, Porter said, his sad tone suddenly gone, replaced by anger. You don't want to help me, you just want to control me. This is why I have problems, because of you. He hung up. I sat there feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me was relieved that I'd seen through his manipulation, but part of me was heartbroken that my son was so deep in his addiction that he couldn't even be honest about wanting help. An hour later, my phone rang. It was my sister, Opal. Geneva, Porter just called me, Opal said. He told me you refused to help him get into rehab. He said you were willing to let him die rather than pay for treatment. He's asking me for the $5,000 deposit. It's a lie, I told Opal. I offered to pay the rehab facility directly. He couldn't give me a real name or phone number. Opal, he's trying to manipulate you into giving him drug money. I figured as much, Opal said, but I wanted to check with you first. Geneva, he's calling everyone. He's telling them you exposed him to the family and now you're refusing to help him get treatment. He's trying to make you look like the bad guy. Let him, I said tiredly. Anyone who knows me will know I'd help him in a heartbeat if he was genuinely seeking treatment. And anyone who doesn't know me well enough to realize that isn't someone whose opinion I care about. But over the next few days, I learned that Porter had done more than just call family members. He'd also called several of my friends and neighbors, telling them that his mother had abandoned him in his time of need. My neighbor Curtis knocked on my door that afternoon. Geneva, I just want you to know Porter called me today, Curtis said. He told me some story about you kicking him out and refusing to help him. I told him I knew better. You're the most caring person I know. Whatever's going on between you two, I know you're doing what you think is right. Thank you, Curtis, I said, feeling emotional. Porter is addicted to drugs. I've been trying to help him for years, but he won't admit he has a problem. I finally told my family the truth about his addiction, and now he's angry that his secrets are exposed. I'm sorry you're going through this, Curtis said. But you did the right thing. You can't help someone who won't help themselves. Not everyone was as understanding. A few people who didn't know me well, seemed to believe Porter's version of events. I heard through the grapevine that Porter was telling people I was a cold-hearted mother who cared more about money than about my son. It hurt, but I reminded myself that the truth would come out eventually. People who knew me would know better, and people who believed Porter's lies without talking to me first weren't people whose opinions mattered. 1 week after I exposed Porter's secrets to the family, things escalated. It was 2 a.m. when I woke up to the sound of someone pounding on my door. I looked out the window and saw Porter's car in my driveway. Mom, open the door, Porter was shouting. I need to talk to you. Open the door right now. I grabbed my phone and called 911. This is Geneva Martinez at 247 Oak Street, I told the dispatcher. My son is at my door threatening me. I need police assistance. Is he armed? The dispatcher asked. I don't know, I said, but he threatened me with a bottle last week, and I'm afraid of what he might do. Officers are on their way, the dispatcher assured me. Stay on the line with me. Don't open the door. Porter continued pounding on the door. I know you're in there. You can't hide from me. You destroyed my life. You told everyone my secrets. Now they all hate me. This is your fault. Sir, the police are coming, I called through the door. Porter, you need to leave before they get here. I'm not leaving until you talk to me, Porter shouted. 3 minutes later, Though it felt like an eternity, I heard sirens. 2 police cars pulled into my driveway. I watched through the window as 2 officers approached Porter. He was yelling at them, gesturing wildly. One of the officers was trying to calm him down while the other was talking into his radio. The officers spoke with Porter for about 5 minutes. Then one of them came to my door and knocked. "Mrs. Martinez, I'm Officer Raymond Thompson. Are you okay?" I opened the door. "I'm fine, thank you for coming." "Your son says there's been a misunderstanding," Officer Thompson said. "He says he just wanted to talk to you about a family matter, but you said on the phone that you're afraid of him. Can you tell me what's been going on?" I explained the situation, Porter's drug addiction, his threats, my decision to stop enabling him. "Has he physically hurt you?" Officer Thompson asked. "No," I admitted. "But last week he threatened me with a bottle, and tonight he showed up at 2 a.m. pounding on my door and shouting, 'Officer, I'm 67 years old. I live alone, and I'm scared of my own son.'" "I understand," Officer Thompson said. "Mrs. Martinez, would you like to file a restraining order against your son?" I thought about it. A restraining order felt so final, so extreme. But what choice did I have? Porter wasn't going to stop on his own, and I couldn't live in fear in my own home. "Yes," I said, "I want to file a restraining order." Officer Thompson took my statement and gave me information about how to file for a restraining order at the courthouse. Meanwhile, his partner was still talking to Porter in the driveway. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but Porter looked agitated. Finally, the officers told Porter he needed to leave. He got in his car and drove away. After the police left, I sat in my living room shaking. I couldn't believe it had come to this. I'd called the police on my own son, and now I was filing a restraining order against him. But I knew I'd made the right decision. I couldn't help Porter if I was too scared of him to even talk to him, and I couldn't live in constant fear of when he'd show up next. The next morning, I went to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. I had to explain to the judge why I needed protection from my own son. I showed him the police report from the previous night. I told him about Porter threatening me with the bottle. The judge granted a temporary restraining order. Porter would be served with papers telling him he wasn't allowed to come within 500 feet of me or my home. If he violated the order, he could be arrested. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that I now had legal protection, but sadness that it had come to this. When Porter was served with the restraining order papers later that day, he called me. I didn't answer, but he left a voicemail. "A restraining order." Porter's voice was shaking with fury. "You got a restraining order against your own son? What kind of mother does that? You've told the family I'm a drug addict. You've turned everyone against me, and now you're treating me like a criminal. Well, congratulations, Mom. You've officially destroyed any chance of us ever having a relationship again. I hope you're happy." I saved the voicemail, not because I enjoyed hearing my son's pain and anger, but because if I ever doubted my decision to protect myself, I needed to remember what Porter sounded like when he was in the grip of his addiction. This wasn't my son. This was the disease talking. And until Porter was willing to get treatment for that disease, there was nothing I could do for him. Except protect myself and tell the truth. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now. Smash that like button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Did Geneva do the right thing? Should she have called police sooner? Where are you watching from? 2 weeks after I filed the restraining order against Porter, I learned that telling the truth had consequences I never expected. Not just for Porter, but for me too. The restraining order meant Porter couldn't come within 500 feet of me or my home, but it didn't stop him from trying to make my life difficult in other ways. Porter started posting on social media about how his heartless mother had abandoned him in his time of need. He wrote long posts about how I'd turned the family against him, how I'd refused to help him get treatment, how I'd gotten a restraining order against him for no reason. He didn't mention his drug addiction. He didn't mention threatening me with a bottle. He didn't mention the $30,000 he'd stolen from me or the $85,000 he'd taken from our family. He only told his side of the story, and to people who didn't know the truth, his side sounded sympathetic. I started getting messages from people I barely knew, friends of Porter's, people from his past, even strangers who'd seen his posts. Some were supportive, asking if I was okay, but others were accusatory. "How could you abandon your son when he needs you most?" One message read. "You're supposed to be his mother. What kind of mother gets a restraining order against her own child?" Another said. "I hope you can live with yourself knowing you turned your back on your son." A third message stated. Each message felt like a knife. These people didn't know what I'd been through. They didn't know about Porter's addiction, his lies, his threats. They only knew the story he was telling, the story of an innocent son victimized by a cruel mother. My sister Opal called me after seeing Porter's posts. "Geneva, you need to respond to this," she said. "Porter is making you look terrible. People who don't know the truth are believing him." "I'm not going to get into a public argument with my son on social media," I said firmly. "The people who matter, our family, my close friends, they know the truth. I don't need to defend myself to strangers." "But Geneva, he's destroying your reputation," Opal protested. "Let him," I said. "The truth always comes out eventually, and I'd rather have my integrity intact than get into a mudslinging contest with my addicted son." But privately, Porter's posts hurt. A lot. 3 weeks after the restraining order, I got a call from a woman named Dr. Ruth Hamilton. She introduced herself as a counselor who specialized in addiction and family therapy. "Mrs. Martinez, your name was given to me by your son Porter," Dr. Hamilton said. "He came to see me yesterday. He's asked me to facilitate a conversation between the two of you." "Porter is in therapy?" I asked, surprised. "He came to me saying he wants to repair his relationship with you," Dr. Hamilton explained. "He acknowledges that he has a substance abuse problem and that his behavior toward you was unacceptable. He'd like to meet with you in my office, with me present as a mediator, to apologize and discuss the possibility of reconciliation." I didn't know what to think. Was Porter genuinely seeking help, or was this another manipulation? "Dr. Hamilton, I have a restraining order against Porter," I said. "I got it because he threatened me. I'm afraid of what he might do." "I understand your concerns," Dr. Hamilton said. "That's why I'd like to meet with you alone first, before any meeting with Porter. I want to hear your side of the story and assess whether a mediated conversation would be safe and productive." That seemed reasonable. "Okay," I agreed. "When would you like to meet?" 2 days later, I sat in Dr. Hamilton's office, a comfortable room with soft lighting and plush chairs. Dr. Hamilton was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a gentle manner. "Mrs. Martinez, thank you for coming," Dr. Hamilton said. "Before we discuss Porter, I want to hear your story. Tell me what's been happening with your son." For the next hour, I told Dr. Hamilton everything. About Porter's addiction, the money he'd stolen, the lies he'd told, the moment he threatened me with a bottle. I showed her documentation. The police report from the night Porter showed up at 2 a.m., text messages where Porter demanded money, statements from family members confirming they'd also been manipulated. Dr. Hamilton listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Mrs. Martinez, I need to be honest with you," Dr. Hamilton finally said. "I don't think a mediated conversation between you and Porter would be beneficial right now." "Why not?" I asked. "Because I don't believe Porter is genuinely ready for recovery," Dr. Hamilton said carefully. "When he came to see me, he spent most of the session talking about how unfairly you've treated him. He portrayed himself as a victim. He mentioned his substance use, but he minimized it significantly. He said he occasionally uses painkillers, but denied having an addiction." "That's not true," I said. "He's been addicted for at least 3 years. He lost his job because of it." "I suspected as much," Dr. Hamilton said. "Mrs. Martinez, in my professional opinion, Porter isn't seeking therapy because he wants to get better. He's seeking therapy because he thinks it will help him manipulate you into dropping the restraining order and giving him money again." I felt sick. So this whole thing, him coming to you, asking for a mediated conversation, it's all just another lie. I believe so, Dr. Hamilton said gently. I'm sorry, I know that's painful to hear. What should I do? I asked. Keep the restraining order in place, Dr. Hamilton advised. Don't meet with him, even in a mediated setting. Porter needs to hit rock bottom before he'll be willing to truly address his addiction. And as long as he thinks he can manipulate you, he won't hit that bottom. How do I know when he's genuinely ready for help? I asked. You'll know, Dr. Hamilton said. When Porter is truly ready, he won't ask you for anything. He won't try to manipulate you or make you feel guilty. He'll simply take responsibility for his actions and do the work of recovery on his own. Until then, the best thing you can do for him is maintain your boundaries. I left Dr. Hamilton's office feeling a strange mix of emotions. I was grateful for her honesty, but I was also devastated to learn that Porter's attempt at therapy had been just another manipulation. When Dr. Hamilton called Porter to tell him I wasn't willing to meet with him, he was furious. He left me another voicemail, one I didn't listen to until later that day. You couldn't even give me one chance, Porter shouted in the message. I went to therapy for you. I tried to make things right, but you're so stubborn and vindictive that you won't even meet with me. Fine, I'm done trying. You want to cut me out of your life? You've got your wish. Don't expect me to come crawling back when you're old and alone and realize you pushed away your only son. I saved the message, another piece of evidence that Porter wasn't ready for real change. 1 month after the restraining order, I got a call from the police. Porter had been arrested. Mrs. Martinez, this is Officer Thompson, the familiar voice said. I wanted to let you know that your son was arrested last night. He was caught trying to break into a pharmacy. My heart sank. Is he okay? He's physically fine, Officer Thompson said. But Mrs. Martinez, there's something you should know. When we arrested him, Porter had drugs in his possession. He's being charged with attempted burglary and drug possession. He's in jail right now, and his bail is set at $10,000. I see, I said quietly. Porter has asked us to contact you, Officer Thompson continued. He wants you to post his bail. No, I said immediately. I'm not posting bail. Are you sure? Officer Thompson asked. I understand you have a restraining order against him, but he is your son, and he'll be in jail until his court date if someone doesn't post bail. I'm sure, I said firmly. Officer Thompson, my son is a drug addict. He threatened me. He stole from our family. And now he's been arrested trying to break into a pharmacy to get drugs. I love my son, but I'm not going to enable him anymore. If staying in jail is what it takes for him to finally face consequences for his actions, then that's where he needs to be. I understand, Officer Thompson said. Mrs. Martinez, for what it's worth, I think you're making the right decision. Your son needs help. And sometimes jail is the wake-up call that gets addicts into treatment. After I hung up with Officer Thompson, I sat in my living room and cried. My son was in jail, and I'd refused to help him get out. What kind of mother was I? But then I reminded myself of everything that had led to this moment. The lies, the theft, the threats, the manipulation. I wasn't abandoning Porter. I was refusing to enable him. There was a difference. Over the next few days, Porter called me from jail multiple times. I didn't answer, but he left voicemails. Mom, please, Porter said in one message, his voice tearful. I made a mistake. I was desperate. I need help. But I can't get help if I'm stuck in jail. Please post my bail. I promise I'll go to rehab. I promise I'll change. Just please don't leave me in here. Each message was heartbreaking, but I didn't call him back, and I didn't post bail. Other family members called me too. My brother Curtis, my cousin Theodore, even people from church who'd heard about Porter's arrest. Geneva, I know Porter has done terrible things, Curtis said, but he's family. Maybe we should pool together some money and get him out of jail, at least give him a chance to go to rehab. No, I said. Curtis, every time we've given Porter a chance, he's used it to manipulate us. We've given him dozens of chances over the past 3 years, And every single time, he's taken our money and gone right back to using drugs. Maybe jail is exactly what he needs. But Geneva, he's your son, Curtis protested. I know he's my son, I said, my voice breaking. Don't you think I know that? Don't you think it's killing me to leave him in jail? But Curtis, we've tried everything else. We've tried giving him money. We've tried believing his promises. We've tried protecting him from consequences. None of it worked. Maybe this will. Not everyone agreed with my decision. A few family members thought I was being too harsh, but most of them understood, especially the ones who'd been manipulated by Porter themselves. My sister Opal was completely supportive. You're doing the right thing, she told me. Porter needs to hit rock bottom, and as long as we keep catching him when he falls, he'll never learn. 6 weeks after his arrest, Porter went to trial for attempted burglary and drug possession. I attended the trial, sitting in the back of the courtroom. Porter looked terrible. He'd lost weight in jail. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken. When he was brought into the courtroom in handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit, he looked around and saw me. Our eyes met for a moment, and I saw something in his expression that I hadn't seen in years. Shame. Not anger, not manipulation, not self-pity, just genuine shame. The trial was short. Porter's lawyer was a public defender who looked overworked and tired. The evidence against Porter was overwhelming. He'd been caught on security camera trying to break into the pharmacy, and he'd had drugs in his pocket when he was arrested. The prosecutor argued that Porter should receive jail time. Your Honor, the defendant has a history of substance abuse, the prosecutor said. He lost his job 3 years ago due to drug-related theft. He's stolen thousands of dollars from his family to support his habit. And when he couldn't get money any other way, he turned to breaking into a pharmacy. Mr. Martinez needs serious intervention, and a suspended sentence would only enable his addiction. Porter's public defender argued for leniency. Your Honor, my client has a disease, the lawyer said. Addiction is a medical condition, not a moral failing. Mr. Martinez needs treatment, not incarceration. I'm asking the court to consider a treatment program instead of jail time. The judge looked at Porter. Mr. Martinez, do you have anything to say for yourself? Porter stood up slowly. He looked at the judge, then at me. Your Honor, I'm a drug addict, Porter said quietly. I've been lying to myself about that for 3 years. I told myself I could quit whenever I wanted. I told myself I just used occasionally. But the truth is, drugs have controlled my life for years. I stole from my clients. I stole from my family. I threatened my own mother. And I tried to break into a pharmacy because I was so desperate for drugs that I was willing to commit a crime. Porter's voice cracked. I know I need help. I know I've hurt people. And I know I deserve to be punished. But Your Honor, if you send me to prison, I'm going to come out even more addicted than I am now. Please, give me a chance to go to a treatment program. I promise I'll do the work. I promise I'll get clean. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Mr. Martinez, I appreciate your honesty, the judge finally said. But I have to weigh your words against your actions. You've had chances before. Your family gave you chances. Your employer gave you a chance. And each time you squandered those chances. Why should I believe this time will be different? Because this is the first time I've admitted the truth, Porter said. I've spent 3 years lying to my family, to myself, to everyone. But I can't lie anymore. I'm at the bottom. I have nothing left. And that's the only reason I'm finally willing to do what it takes to get clean. The judge looked at me. Mrs. Martinez, you're the defendant's mother. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the court? I stood up, my heart pounding. I hadn't expected to be called on. Your Honor, I love my son, I said. But I've spent 3 years enabling his addiction. Every time I gave him money or protected him from consequences, I made his addiction worse. I've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for an addict is let them face the consequences of their actions. I paused, trying to control my emotions. If you send Porter to a treatment program, I'll support that decision. But if you send him to jail, I'll support that too. Whatever consequence you decide is appropriate, I trust that it's what Porter needs to finally get the help he's been refusing for years. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Martinez. After a brief recess, the judge returned with his decision. "Mr. Martinez, I'm sentencing you to 18 months in jail," the judge announced. "However, I'm suspending 12 months of that sentence on the condition that you complete a court-ordered residential drug treatment program. You'll serve 6 months in jail, then be transferred to a treatment facility for 12 months. If you successfully complete the program, you'll be released. If you fail to complete it or if you use drugs during treatment, you'll serve the remaining 12 months in jail. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," Porter said quietly. "This is your last chance, Mr. Martinez," the judge said sternly. "If you come before this court again on drug-related charges, I will not be lenient. Am I clear?" "Yes, Your Honor," Porter repeated. "Thank you." As they led Porter out of the courtroom in handcuffs, he looked at me one more time. And this time, he mouthed 2 words. "I'm sorry." 3 months into Porter's jail sentence, I received a letter from him. It was the first time he'd contacted me since the trial. I almost didn't open it. I was afraid it would be another manipulation, another plea for money or help. But something made me open the envelope. "Dear Mom," the letter began, "I know I don't have the right to write to you after everything I've done. I know I hurt you in ways that might be unforgivable. But I needed to tell you something, and I needed to tell you while I'm sober and clear-headed, something I haven't been in 3 years. You were right about everything. I'm a drug addict. I stole from you and from our family. I lied to you constantly. And the night I threatened you with that bottle, I became someone I never thought I could be, someone who would hurt the person who loved him most. I've had a lot of time to think in here, and I've realized that the worst thing I did wasn't stealing your money. It wasn't even threatening you. The worst thing I did was forcing you to choose between enabling my addiction and protecting yourself. I made you choose between being my mother and being safe, and I hate myself for that. Mom, when you exposed my secrets to the family, I was furious. When you refused to give me money, I called you cruel. When you got a restraining order against me, I told everyone you were heartless. But now I understand. Everything you did was because you loved me. You loved me enough to stop helping me destroy myself. You loved me enough to let me face consequences. You loved me enough to tell the truth even when it hurt. That night when I threatened you with the bottle and you threatened me with the truth, you saved my life. Because if you'd given me the money I demanded, I would have kept using until I overdosed. But instead, you drew a line. You said no more. And even though I hated you for it at the time, that no was the most loving thing you could have done. I'm in jail now because of the choices I made, not because of anything you did, and I'm grateful for that. Because in jail, I can't use drugs, I can't manipulate people, I can't run from the truth anymore. In 3 months, I'll be transferred to the treatment facility. And Mom, I'm going to do the work this time, not because I'm trying to win you back, not because I'm trying to manipulate you into forgiving me, but because I finally understand that I need to change for myself. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to want a relationship with me after I'm released. But I needed you to know that everything you did, the family meeting, the restraining order, refusing to post my bail, it all came from love. And I finally see that. I'm sorry for everything I put you through, and thank you for loving me enough to let me fall. Your son, Porter. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. This was the first time in 3 years that Porter had taken full responsibility for his actions without trying to manipulate me or make excuses. This was the first time he'd acknowledged that my decisions came from love, not cruelty. Maybe, just maybe, Porter was finally ready to get better. I wrote back to him that evening. Dear Porter, I received your letter. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for taking responsibility. And thank you for finally understanding that everything I did came from love, not anger. I forgive you, Porter, not because what you did was okay. It wasn't. But because you're my son and I love you. And because for the first time in years, I believe you're genuinely sorry. I'm proud of you for doing the work in jail. I'm proud of you for facing the truth. And I'm hopeful that the treatment program will help you build the life you deserve, a life free from addiction. I'll be here when you're ready, not to enable you, not to give you money, but to support your recovery and to rebuild our relationship in a healthy way. I love you, Porter. I always have. Even when I had to say no. Especially when I had to say no. Love, Mom. 6 months after his trial, Porter was transferred from jail to the residential treatment facility. The program was intensive, 12 months of daily therapy, group sessions, addiction education, and work therapy. I was allowed to visit him once a month. The first visit was awkward. We sat across from each other in the facility's visiting room, not sure what to say. "How are you doing?" I finally asked. "It's hard," Porter admitted. "The therapy is intense. They make you look at all the things you've done, all the people you've hurt. It's painful, but it's necessary." "I'm glad you're doing the work," I said. "Mom, I want you to know, I'm not doing this to win you back," Porter said. "I'm doing it because I finally understand that I can't live the way I've been living. The lies, the manipulation, the constant desperation for drugs, it's not a life. It's barely existing. And I don't want to exist anymore. I want to actually live." "That's all I've ever wanted for you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. Over the next year, I visited Porter every month. Each visit, I saw him changing. He looked healthier. He'd gained back the weight he'd lost. His eyes were clear. His hands didn't shake anymore. But more than his physical appearance, his attitude was different. He talked about the things he was learning in therapy. He talked about making amends to the people he'd hurt. He talked about his plans for when he completed the program, finding a job, attending Narcotics Anonymous meetings, staying sober one day at a time. He didn't talk about moving back in with me. He didn't ask me for money. He didn't try to manipulate me into doing things for him. He was finally taking responsibility for his own recovery. And that gave me hope. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now. Smash that like button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Will Porter stay sober? Can Geneva trust him again? Where are you watching from? 18 months after Porter was arrested, he completed the residential treatment program. The day of his release, I drove to the facility to pick him up. I was nervous. I hadn't seen Porter outside of a controlled environment in over a year and a half. The last time he'd been free, he'd threatened me with a bottle stolen from our family and manipulated everyone who tried to help him. Was he really different now? Or was this just a temporary change that would disappear the moment he faced the pressures of the real world? Porter walked out of the treatment facility carrying a single duffel bag containing all his possessions. He looked so different from the man who'd been arrested 18 months ago. He'd gained healthy weight, his skin was clear, his eyes were bright. He looked whole. "Hi, Mom," Porter said quietly, stopping a few feet away from me. He didn't try to hug me. He respected the distance between us. "Hi, Porter," I said. "Congratulations on completing the program." "Thank you," Porter said. "And thank you for coming to pick me up. I know you didn't have to do that." "You're my son," I said simply. "Where else would I be?" The drive back to my house was quiet at first. Finally, Porter spoke. "Mom, I need to tell you something," he said. "I'm not moving back in with you." I glanced at him, surprised. "You're not?" "No," Porter said. "I've arranged to live in a sober living house with 3 other guys from the treatment program. It's a structured environment where we hold each other accountable. I need that right now. I need to prove to myself, and to you, that I can stay sober on my own before I try to rebuild our relationship." "That sounds very mature," I said, feeling a mix of pride and sadness. Pride that Porter was taking responsibility for his recovery. Sadness that we weren't ready to live under the same roof yet. "I also got a job," Porter continued. "It's nothing fancy. I'm going to be working at a warehouse, doing inventory and shipping. It's minimum wage, but it's honest work. And the company hires people with records, so they were willing to take a chance on me." "I'm proud of you, Porter," I said, and I meant it. "There's one more thing," Porter said. "I want to pay you back. The $30,000 I stole from you. I know it'll take years on my current salary, but I've worked out a plan. I'm going to pay you $200 a month. At that rate, it'll take me 12.5 years to pay it all back, but I'm committed to doing it." I felt tears in my eyes. "Porter, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," Porter interrupted gently. Mom, I stole from you. I need to make that right. Not just with words, but with actions. I need to show you that I'm taking responsibility for what I did. We pulled into my driveway. Do you want to come in for lunch? I asked. I'd like that, Porter said. 3 months after his release, Porter called me and asked if he could come over for dinner. He said he had something important to discuss. When he arrived, he wasn't alone. He'd brought my sister Opal, my brother Curtis, and my cousins Minnie, Raymond, and Theodore, all the family members he'd stolen money from over the years. Mom, everyone, thank you for coming, Porter said once we were all gathered in my living room. I asked you here because I need to do something. In my treatment program, we learned about making amends to the people we've hurt, and I hurt all of you. Porter pulled out a folder containing papers. I've been keeping track of every dollar I borrowed from each of you over the past 3 years. Mom, you lent me $30,000. Opal, you lent me $15,000. Curtis, $8,000. Minnie, $8,000. Raymond, $5,000. Theodore, $10,000. And there were others in the extended family, another $9,000 combined. That's $85,000 total. Everyone in the room was quiet, watching Porter carefully. I can't pay you all back immediately, Porter continued. I'm working a minimum wage job, and most of my paycheck goes to rent and living expenses. But I've worked out a payment plan. I'm going to pay back every penny I stole from this family. It's going to take me years, probably a decade or more, but I'm committed to doing it. Porter handed each person a piece of paper. This is a promissory note. It's a legal document where I promise to pay you back a specific amount each month. It's not much, $50 or $100 a month depending on how much I owe you, but it's what I can afford right now. And as I get better jobs and earn more, I'll increase the payments. My brother Curtis looked at his promissory note, then at Porter. Porter, this is more than I expected. I honestly didn't think I'd ever see this money again. I don't blame you for thinking that, Porter said. I gave you every reason not to trust me, but I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I've changed, not with words, but with consistent action over time. I'm willing to do that, Curtis said. Porter, I'm proud of you for taking this step. One by one, the other family members agreed. Some were more skeptical than others, but everyone agreed to accept Porter's payment plan and give him a chance to make amends. After everyone left, Porter stayed to help me clean up. That must have been hard, I said, facing everyone like that. It was, Porter admitted, but it was necessary. Mom, I spent 3 years lying to all of you and stealing from you. I can't just say sorry and expect everything to be okay. I have to show you through my actions that I've changed. You've already shown me so much, I said. Porter, 3 months ago, I was terrified to pick you up from the treatment facility. I was afraid you'd go right back to using drugs the moment you got out. But you haven't. You're working. You're living in a sober house. You're going to meetings. You're paying me back. You're doing everything right. I'm taking it one day at a time, Porter said. That's all I can do. I can't promise I'll never relapse. Addiction is a lifelong disease, but I can promise that I'm doing everything in my power to stay sober. That's all I can ask, I said. 6 months after Porter's release, he faced his first real test. Porter called me one evening, his voice shaking. Mom, I need to talk to someone. Can I come over? Of course, I said, worried. Are you okay? I'll explain when I get there, Porter said. 20 minutes later, Porter was sitting on my couch, his head in his hands. What happened? I asked gently. I almost relapsed today, Porter said. I was at work, and I hurt my back moving some heavy boxes. It was bad, really bad. My supervisor wanted to send me to the emergency room, but I refused because I was afraid they'd give me pain medication. That was smart, I said. But the pain was so bad, Mom, Porter continued. And all I could think about was how easy it would be to get painkillers, how much relief they'd give me. I knew exactly where I could get them. I knew exactly how much I'd need to take to make the pain go away. But you didn't, I observed. I wanted to, Porter admitted. For about 2 hours, I seriously considered it. I even drove to the part of town where I used to buy drugs. I sat in my car outside the dealer's house for 20 minutes, trying to decide what to do. My heart was pounding. What stopped you? I called my sponsor from NA, Porter said. He talked me through it, reminded me that the pain would pass, but relapse would destroy everything I've worked for. He reminded me that there are other ways to manage pain: ice, rest, over-the-counter medication. He reminded me of all the reasons I got sober. And then what happened? I asked. I drove away, Porter said. I went to a NA meeting instead, and I talked about what I was feeling, the temptation, the fear, the shame of almost throwing away 6 months of sobriety. And everyone in that meeting understood, because they've all been there. Porter looked at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm telling you this because I promised myself I'd be honest with you. I almost relapsed today. I came really close. And I need you to know that recovery isn't a straight line. There are going to be days when I struggle, days when staying sober feels impossible. But you didn't use, I said firmly. Porter, you were in pain, you were tempted, and you made the right choice. You called your sponsor. You went to a meeting. You drove away from the dealer's house. That's what recovery looks like. I just don't want to disappoint you, Porter said. Porter, you would only disappoint me if you used drugs and then lied about it, I said. You came really close to relapsing, but you didn't. And then you came here and told me the truth about what happened. That's not disappointing. That's courage. Porter hugged me. It was the first time we'd hugged in years. Thank you, Mom, he said. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. You're my son, I said. I'll never give up on you, but I also won't enable you. There's a difference. I know, Porter said, and that difference saved my life. 1 year after his release, Porter got a promotion at work. He was moved from the warehouse floor to an assistant manager position. The pay was better, not great, but significantly more than minimum wage. With his increased income, Porter increased his monthly payments to the family members he owed. He was now paying me $400 a month instead of $200. At this rate, I'll have you paid back in 6 years instead of 12, Porter said proudly when he brought me his first increased payment. Porter, you don't have to pay me back so quickly, I said. I want you to be able to save money for yourself too. I am saving, Porter assured me. I've actually got $2,000 in savings now. It's not much, but it's more than I've had in years. And Mom, paying you back isn't a burden, it's healing. Every time I make a payment, I feel like I'm taking another step away from the person I was and toward the person I want to be. Porter had also started taking community college classes in the evenings. He was working toward an associate's degree in business administration. I know I can't get my old job back, Porter explained. And honestly, I don't want it. That life, the high-pressure sales, the client entertainment, the stress, it contributed to my addiction. But I think I can build a different kind of career, something more stable and less triggering. I think that's very wise, I said. Porter had also started volunteering at the treatment center where he'd completed his program. Once a week, he went back to talk to the current residents about recovery and share his story. It helps me stay accountable, Porter explained. When I tell those guys about my recovery, I remember why I'm doing this. And sometimes, hearing my story helps them believe that recovery is possible. You've become the person I always knew you could be, I told him. The person you were before addiction took over your life. I'm not the same person I was before addiction, Porter said thoughtfully. I can't go back to being that person. That person didn't understand the power of honesty or the importance of boundaries or the value of asking for help. But I'm becoming someone better, someone stronger, someone who's learned from his mistakes. 18 months after Porter's release, 3 years after the night, he threatened me with a bottle. Our entire family gathered for Sunday dinner at my house. It was the first time we'd all been together since the family meeting where I'd exposed Porter's addiction. But this time, the atmosphere was completely different. Porter arrived early to help me cook. We worked side by side in the kitchen, and it felt natural and comfortable in a way it hadn't in years. Thank you for hosting this, Mom, Porter said. I know some of the family is still working through forgiving me. This dinner is a big step. They'll get there, I assured him. Some people need more time than others, but Porter, everyone has seen the changes you've made. You've been sober for 2 years. You've been consistently making your payments. You've been honest and accountable. That matters. When the rest of the family arrived, there was initial awkwardness. But as dinner progressed, people relaxed. Porter stood up partway through the meal. I want to say something, he announced. First, thank you all for coming. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful you're willing to give me a chance to earn it back. Second, I want to give you all an update on the repayment plan. In the past 18 months, I've paid back $8,400. I know that's only about 10% of what I owe, but I'm committed to paying back every penny. At my current rate, I'll have everyone paid back in about 8 more years. Porter, that's not necessary, Theodore started to say. It is necessary, Porter interrupted gently. I stole from all of you. Making it right financially is part of making it right emotionally and morally. Please let me do this. Third, Porter continued, I want to tell you what I've learned over the past 3 years. I've learned that addiction is a disease, but it's not an excuse. I'm responsible for my actions, even when I was in the grip of addiction. I've learned that honesty is the foundation of recovery, not just honesty with others, but honesty with myself. And I've learned that family isn't about never making mistakes. It's about being willing to face the consequences of those mistakes and do the hard work of rebuilding trust. Porter looked at me. Mom, you saved my life. When I threatened you with that bottle, you threatened me with the truth. And that truth, as painful as it was to hear, set me free. You exposed my addiction when I was too sick to admit it myself. You refused to enable me when I was begging you for help. You let me face consequences when every instinct told you to protect me. And because of that, I'm alive and sober today. I was crying. So were several other people around the table. If you'd given me money that night, I'd be dead, Porter said simply. I would have kept using until I overdosed, but instead you drew a line. You said no more. And you stuck to that line even when I hated you for it, even when I tried to manipulate you, even when I made you look like the villain on social media. You held firm, and that firmness saved my life. Porter raised his glass of water. So I want to toast to Mom, to the woman who loved me enough to let me fall, to the woman who told the truth when it would have been easier to keep my secrets, to the woman who showed me that real love sometimes means saying no. Mom, I love you, and I'm sorry for everything I put you through. To Geneva, everyone echoed, raising their glasses. After dinner, as people were leaving, my brother Curtis pulled me aside. Geneva, I owe you an apology, Curtis said. 3 years ago, when you exposed Porter's addiction at that family meeting, I thought you were being too harsh. I thought you should have handled it more privately, more gently. I didn't understand why you had to take such extreme measures. And now, I asked. Now I understand that those extreme measures saved Porter's life, Curtis said. If you'd handled it gently, if you'd kept his secrets, if you'd continued enabling him, Porter would be dead. But because you were willing to be the bad guy, because you were willing to have everyone think you were heartless, Porter got the wake-up call he needed. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. You're a good mother, Geneva, Curtis said. Not because you made things easy for Porter, but because you loved him enough to make things hard when that's what he needed. 2 years after Porter's release, 5 years after the night he threatened me with a bottle, Porter invited me to a celebration at his NUM meeting. What are we celebrating? I asked. You'll see, Porter said mysteriously. When we arrived at the meeting, Porter went to the front of the room. The meeting leader handed him something, a coin. Tonight, we're celebrating Porter's 2-year sobriety anniversary, the leader announced. The room erupted in applause. Porter held up the coin. This is my 2-year chip, he explained to me. In Narcotics Anonymous, we give chips to celebrate sobriety milestones. 2 years might not sound like a lot, but for an addict, it's everything. Porter addressed the room. 2 years ago today, I walked out of a residential treatment facility. I just spent 18 months in jail and treatment. I had no money, no job, no place to live. And a family that had every reason to never speak to me again. But I had two things. I had my sobriety, and I had my mother's support. Not the kind of support where she gave me money or made things easy. The kind of support where she believed I could rebuild my life through my own hard work. In these 2 years, I've worked 2 jobs. I've gotten a promotion. I've gone back to school. I've paid back $16,000 of the $85,000 I owe my family. I've lived in a sober house. I've gone to meetings, a lot of meetings. I've called my sponsor in the middle of the night. I've faced temptation and made it through. I've built a life that I'm proud of. Porter looked at me. "Mom, would you come up here for a second?" I walked to the front of the room, unsure what Porter was planning. "I want to give you something," Porter said. He handed me a different coin, one with the words 2 years engraved on it. "In NA, we sometimes give coins to the people who support our recovery," Porter explained. "This coin is for you, because you didn't just support my recovery, you made it possible. When I was at my worst, you didn't enable me. You held me accountable. You told the truth even when it was hard. You loved me enough to let me face consequences. And because of that, I'm standing here today with 2 years of sobriety." I held the coin, tears streaming down my face. "Thank you, Mom," Porter said. "Thank you for threatening me with the truth. It saved my life." The room applauded as Porter hugged me. After the meeting, as we walked to our cars, Porter said, "You know, I've been thinking about that night a lot lately. The night I threatened you with the bottle." "What about it?" I asked. "I remember what you said to me," Porter recalled. "If you threaten me with that bottle, I'm going to threaten you with the truth. At the time, I thought you were bluffing. I thought you'd never actually expose my secrets. But you did. The very next day, you told the entire family everything. And that truth destroyed my life, or at least, it destroyed the life I'd been living." "Do you resent me for that?" I asked. "No," Porter said immediately. "Mom, that life needed to be destroyed. It was built on lies and addiction and manipulation. It wasn't a real life. It was barely existing. You destroyed that false life so I could build a real one." "I'm proud of the life you've built," I said. "I couldn't have built it without you," Porter said. "Mom, you gave me the greatest gift a parent can give a child. You let me fail. You let me face consequences. You let me hit rock bottom. And from that bottom, I was finally able to climb back up." We reached our cars. Before getting in, Porter said one more thing. "You know what the irony is?" Porter asked. "I spent 3 years thinking you were the worst mother in the world because you wouldn't enable my addiction. But now I realize you're the best mother in the world because you loved me enough not to." 5 years after Porter's release, 7 years after the night he threatened me with a bottle, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Porter, even though we talked regularly and he lived just 20 minutes away. I opened the envelope curiously. "Dear Mom," the letter began. "I'm writing this letter because there are some things I need to say, and I want to make sure I say them right. 7 years ago, I came to your house desperate for drug money. When you refused to give it to me, I picked up a bottle and threatened to hurt you. I raised that bottle over my head, and for a moment, I genuinely considered hitting my own mother with it. That's how sick I was. That's how much addiction had destroyed the person I used to be. You could have given me the money. You could have called the police right then. You could have done a dozen different things. But instead, you made me a counter-threat. You threatened to tell everyone the truth about me, about my addiction, my lies, my theft, my manipulation. At the time, I thought you were being cruel. I thought you were more concerned with punishing me than with helping me. I was so angry at you for exposing me, for telling the family, for getting a restraining order, for refusing to post my bail, for everything. But now, 7 years later, I understand what you were really doing. You were saving my life. Every no you gave me was an act of love. Every boundary you set was an act of compassion. Every consequence you let me face was an act of wisdom. Today, I'm 7 years sober. I completed my associate's degree last month. I got promoted again at work. I'm now a manager. I've paid back $35,000 of the $85,000 I owed to the family. I have a savings account with $10,000 in it. I have healthy relationships with my family. I have a life that I'm proud of. None of that would have been possible if you'd enabled my addiction. If you'd given me money that night, I'd be dead. I'm sure of it. But because you threatened me with the truth and then followed through on that threat, I'm alive. They say that the truth will set you free. But I learned that night that the truth can also save your life. Your truth, the truth about who I'd become and what I'd done, destroyed the false life I was living and gave me the chance to build a real one. So thank you, Mom. Thank you for threatening me with the truth. Thank you for loving me enough to let me fall. Thank you for being strong when I needed you to be. Thank you for choosing my life over my comfort. Thank you for being the mother I needed, not the mother I wanted. I love you. Your son, Porter. I read the letter 3 times, crying each time. 7 years ago, my son had threatened me with a bottle. That night, I'd threatened him with the truth. And that truth, as painful and difficult as it had been, had saved his life. Today, it's been 7 years since the night Porter threatened me with a bottle. 7 years since I threatened him with the truth. Porter is now 49 years old. He's been sober for 7 years. He's completed his associate's degree and is working on his bachelor's. He's a manager at his company. He's paid back $42,000 of the $85,000 he owes to the family, halfway there. He's also started speaking at schools and community centers about addiction and recovery. He tells his story to help other people understand what addiction looks like and how to support someone in recovery without enabling them. And most importantly, he's happy. Really, genuinely happy in a way he wasn't even before his addiction. As for me, I learned something important through this experience. Love isn't always gentle. Sometimes love is tough. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes love means letting someone you care about face painful consequences. I learned that protecting someone from consequences isn't the same as protecting them from harm. Sometimes, consequences are exactly what someone needs to finally change. I learned that telling the truth, even when it's hard, even when it destroys relationships temporarily, even when it makes you look like the bad guy, is an act of love. And I learned that sometimes, the most powerful weapon you can use against addiction isn't money or intervention or treatment. It's truth. 7 years ago, my son threatened me with a bottle. That night, I threatened him with the truth. And the truth saved his life. This story proves that truth is more powerful than money-enabling addiction is not love. Its harm-setting boundaries can save lives. Consequences are sometimes necessary for change. Real love means saying no when needed. Recovery is possible with accountability. Parents must choose child's life over comfort. Hitting rock bottom can lead to rising up. If this story moved you, subscribe for more powerful family recovery stories. Smash that like button. Turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Did Geneva do the right thing by exposing Porter? Would you have the strength to let your child face consequences? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, South Africa, Australia, Trinidad, India, Philippines. Remember, if someone you love is addicted, stop enabling. Set boundaries. Tell the truth. Let them face consequences. Don't give money for drugs. Support recovery, not addiction. Tough love saves lives. Enabling kills. Your no might save their life. Recovery requires accountability. Truth is weapon against addiction. Choose their life over their comfort. Thank you for following Geneva and Porter's journey from addiction to recovery.